Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. Got a great show planned for you today. Ladies and gentlemen, is one of my favorite days of the year. And I tell you why. I'm holding in my hands, for the folks that are watching online, this is the stuff from the Bookcase of Accountability, which is in the land of silly. Hold on a minute. Let me get myself squared away here. The Bookcase of Accountability is where we keep our stuff from throughout the year. And once we kind of look back on it at the end of the year. It's kind of basically what it boils down to. Bookcase of Accountability, one of the cool things here on the Rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Anyway, we're going to look at some of this stuff, and a lot of it is and look at some of these things here that went throughout the season. Some interesting stuff. I kept my bowl picks throughout the weeks. I picked 10 games a week. My average on the season was 5 wins. I had a couple weeks where I wasn't that great, but I had a couple weeks where I was really good. So there's that. Some interesting stuff out of that. Some weeks I was really, really good. Some weeks I was really, really bad. Here, we'll give you an example. These are week 1 nuggets from where I was picking games in week 1. I picked North Carolina to beat Virginia. That's not good. Of course, Virginia Tech. They go up to Virginia Tech in the first week, and their season went down the crapper starting right then. That's what happened with the North Carolina Tar Heels. I picked them -5.5 at Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech beat them senseless. I also had some other games that I completely missed on. I thought that Clemson was going to beat Georgia. That's not good. So there's that. Yes, I made mistakes throughout the season, and this isn't a walk it back type day. It's more of a how we can look through at the beginning of the season compared to the end of the season, and how we can also, there's some things that are consistent. I picked Florida Atlantic to cover against the Florida Gators. Missed on that one. That one's not good. Here's another one. I thought that LSU was going to walk the dog on UCLA. They were a 3-point favorite. I thought Ed Orgeron was going to go in there and stomp them. Yeah, how'd that work out? Not so much. As UCLA comes out with the win. Brandon bringing up that I also thought that the Tar Heels would beat the Gamecocks. And you know what? I wasn't the only one. There were a ton of people who thought that South Carolina was going to come up short in that game. So there's that. I wasn't the only one. Notre Dame, I had them picked to beat Florida State. I think that that game came out correct, as they did win over Florida State, but they did not cover the spread. So my week 1 picks were not very good. They just weren't very good. Here's some other notes. This is from a gentleman that works for Saturday Down South. He says that the dark horse in the ACC is going to be the Miami Hurricanes. Yeah, that didn't work out too well. They really weren't the dark horse. If you wanted to talk about a dark horse, the dark horse was probably, the team that actually won it. Pitt was kind of the dark horse.
I found this on the web.
So, yeah, there's that. Here's his projected order of finish. He had Clemson at 1, NC State at 2, Boston College at 3, Florida State at 4, Wake Forest at 5. They ended up winning the division. Number 6 was Louisville. 7 was Syracuse. So that was a little bit off. In the Coastal, he had Miami taking it home, followed by North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh, who ended up winning the division, Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Duke. Yeah. You look back on some of these things, and it makes you silly. The offensive player of the year, according to this preseason report, was going to be Sam Howell with North Carolina. We kind of all thought that, to be honest with you. How did that work out? Yeah.
What a mess is basically what it boils down to. 803-978-1832. If you had something that you picked at the beginning of the season that you're willing to put out there and say, you know what? I was wrong. I was wrong on that. I'll be happy to take those calls. This is Come Clean Thursday here on the Rundown. As we read some of the stuff from this week or from this season that we look at and we say, you know what? People were trying to make good, educated guesses about what's going on. And in the end, it ends up not working out so well. So there's that. Let's look at some other stuff from the bookcase of accountability. I also have the trash can of accountability, which is pretty much everything that Beg and Megan said here on the show. That is a trash can that is next to the bookcase of accountability. I don't know if I'm going to sift through that or not. I just don't think I'm going to do that. Here's the other thing. The preseason All-ACC team for the same writer had Sam Howell as his quarterback. His honorable mentions were De'Aaron King from Miami and DJ Uiagalelei from Clemson. Kenny Pickett was not even remotely on the list. Okay. You look back on that now and you're like, man, how did that happen? This is another article. This is from 247 Sports. Very interesting thing here where they had under the radar college football non-conference games. We'll start with Cincinnati at Indiana. Cincinnati actually wins that game, but Indiana was not really that good. Louisville at Ole Miss. That game didn't really come out that much. Jetmec asked, did King even play this year? I think he played a little bit, but he got hurt. Iowa at Iowa State. Wasn't exactly the matchup you wanted. Iowa State finished, 7-5? Iowa ended up, 10-2, 10-3, something like that. They were ranked number 2 in the country at one point. Louisiana at Texas. Texas ended up winning that game. Texas A&M and Colorado in Denver. I don't remember that very much. The other under the radar non-conference matchups, LSU at UCLA, Washington at Michigan. And at this point, here's the other interesting thing. Michigan wasn't even ranked in the preseason. Now, I know that Georgia went out there and handed them their butt, but in reality, they finished up as a CFP finalist. So some interesting stuff to look at there. Let's go out to the phones, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Welcome into the Rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, talking about things that didn't happen, I thought that the ACC would have added 2 teams by now.
Yeah. Did you come out and talk about that, though?
I did. I really thought that they were going to add 2 teams. I still think they should. I think they should either, add West Virginia and maybe Cincinnati.
I think it should be Notre Dame and West Virginia.
I would, if I was the ACC, I would tell Notre Dame either you're in or you're out. Just we're moving on.
And look, it's like I see Notre Dame as kind of like a stepchild. What I mean by that, or not necessarily a stepchild. That's not a good example. They are like a kid that that can go and do their own thing, or they can come home when they need to. Notre Dame needs the ACC for all of the sports except for football.
Yeah.
Think about it. In reality, does anybody really set their watch to when Notre Dame baseball is going to play? They have about 35 people, and that's not a joke. For their early matchups, because it's so cold up there,
Yeah.
they have about 35 people in the stands. They can't get people to come to these games. So
yeah, I was watching Notre Dame and UNC last time, the basketball game.
Yeah, but I'm just saying they need the ACC for that. The ACC but the ACC needs them for football. They really do. And I know that people look at Notre Dame as, man, they're a weak. They don't want to give, and a lot of it's from the folks that are like in down south that say point blank that Notre Dame is not as good as everyone else. Look, the ranking system that we have, I think it's like 10 years in a row, they've been a top 12 team. So it's not like there's some dog poo program. They are a good football program, and the ACC needs another program that could strike a fear into the hearts of some of the programs that are around the country.
Well, I think if West Virginia were to join the ACC, it would definitely help West Virginia.
It would, and I think there's a section of people that will say, and this is just what I read, that academically they don't bring anything to the conference. I've heard that. So
it's so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I've heard that too, and it's so stupid. I mean, do we really think that Louisville brings the academics to the ACC? I mean, come on. I went to Clemson. I graduated from there. I also got my master's degree from Georgia Tech. I mean, there are lots of good schools in the ACC.
Right.
And to people downgrade West Virginia because it's in West Virginia. It's not because they're academics. But I think they should just, poop or get off the pot with Notre Dame. They use this in the other sports, and I think a lot of people are tired of it.
I think the ACC had them over the barrel with at the start of the pandemic season because they could have been like point blank. Other conferences were not scheduling outside of the conference.
That's right.
Notre Dame could have said, they could have told Notre Dame, look, you need to join the conference. You're already here. You don't get to dip your toe, and you can't use us as a summer home. That's kind of the way that it works. Come down here when it's cold and or when it's hot, and then go back up. No, you can't do that. They should have held them to the fire with that, but they didn't. And so since they didn't, they you reap what you sow.
Yeah. And what do you think about the article they had about the Texas A&M recruiting? That a bunch of donors got together and rallied that group because it's odd that they were losing. They lost their defensive coordinator, but they kept on adding defensive talent. When Clemson lost theirs, they lost some recruits.
Yeah, I have to read more into that, but I think that's something that's been going on. We just haven't been able to talk about it. No. I mean, I think that there's, and I use the term car dealers. There's probably let's just use the term big businessman in each SEC, ACC, Pac-12, whatever, Big Ten town that, is an alma mater or just says, you know what, it's in my best interest to have really, really good seats. So for that, I'm going to pony up money to get great players. I think that happens.
I mean, but what are these coaches going to do when these big donors that are putting these guys in there saying, no, you have to play this player? They really start telling them how they're going to coach your team. No,
I would love to see someone tell Nick Saban that, or someone tell, Steve Spurrier in his day. I mean, that's not going to happen.
But people act like Jimbo Fisher's this unbelievable head coach, and I don't look at him that way. I look at him as kind of scummy. That he would, if you want me to play him, I'll play him.
I don't think Jimbo Fisher's a good coach either.
That's just my interpretation of Jimbo.
Yeah, I don't think that he's all that. I really don't.
No.
Look, this is a guy that when he was at Florida State, there was a fan that came to one of his radio shows, and the fan asked him, "Where's your loyalty to the program?" And basically, Jimbo Fisher and his band of goons down there pushed this guy out of the radio show. There's video of that. So that just tells you the kind of person that he is when things like that happen. So I don't know. I don't think that he's a very good coach either. But see, there are coaches that I think that would stand up and tell somebody, look, I'm at practice every day. I think that this kid over here gives me the better chance to win. And I think some coaches will stick with that. So,
yeah. And does Clemson get Nick Eason?
Yeah, there's reports that he's heading that way, is what I've been told. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Love the show.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back, we'll have more for you. The Bookcase of Accountability here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I think David's talking about Jimbo Phillips or Jimbo Fisher. Why am I calling him Phillips? That's funny. Hold on. Rundown, hello. Sure. Hold on, man. You're next, all right? Hold on, okay? I got to go back on the air in just a minute. I'll get right to you, okay? You remember when Jimbo, when he suspended Jameis Winston, who was a scumbag in school, and he was like, he told like he showed up in his uniform and everything else, and Jimbo Fisher had to like basically tell him, stop it. Yeah, good point there, David. Number 1 versus number 13. Here's a nugget for you, David. Tonight, Lady Gamecocks, they like to be called the Gamecocks, but the Gamecocks may not be playing with their full roster of players. How about that? Don Staley kind of hinted at that. I don't think South Carolina is going to have their full roster of players tonight. They might be shorthanded, which would be good for Mulkey and Baylor. Well, welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Out to the phones we go. Welcome into the program. Good afternoon.
Hey, it's Big Barney Ross. I'm going to touch on what the last caller had to say before I get into why I called.
Okay.
The University of Louisville brings a lot to the academics of the ACC. Now, I've had an uncle and a cousin go through their dental program. Their dental program is top-notch. And living in Kentucky, supply and demand, my friend. Supply and demand. Having a good dentist in Kentucky is vital. But the reason
I heard there was only like 20 teeth in the state of Kentucky. So, I mean, if you're a dentist, you don't have a lot of work. You might as well get a job as a bagger at a grocery store.
Well, you're really in trouble in March because most people are down to the Final Four, you know. But look, the reason I come is to gain some knowledge here. It's accountability. And is the championship game, is that considered a bowl game?
In my mind, no. I don't think that. And I brought this up the other day, and some people got upset with me on this. I don't think the CFP semis or the championship games are bowl games because they're completely different than the other bowl games because you don't have opt-outs. You don't have coaches that are moving on. I mean, it's basically the same team that you had on Championship Saturday is going to be playing in that final on in the semifinals on New Year's Eve. So I think that they're completely different. So I don't consider them bowls.
There's nobody sponsoring this thing. You know, you've got a championship. Will you be watching that? You're going to watch it.
Of course, I'm going to watch the final. Yeah, absolutely. I watched the majority of the and I went back and rewatched them later on because I'm a tape nerd, meaning that I just love to watch college football tape. But I watched the majority of the semifinals.
Will you be rooting for Georgia or Alabama? Who you hope wins this thing?
I'm not rooting for either team because they're not my team. So let's just make sure that we understand that. Either way, I get to mock. If Alabama loses, the way that their fans will take it, it'll be like it's the end of time. Now, I hope, because Alabama's been the big bad bully for a long, long time, and the only coach that's really had any success against them is, of course, Dabo Swinney, who's won 2 out of the last 3 against him. I hope that Alabama loses, and then all of a sudden he decides, you know what? I'm going to retire. Now, if Georgia loses, that's fun too, because on next Tuesday, we'll have a tribute to 1980. We're going to play everything from Call Me by Blondie to clips from American Gigolo, just to remind Georgia fans that they haven't done anything that's of real importance as far as winning a national title since 1980. So I get to have fun either way.
Well, since it's not a bowl game, do you feel like if people watch it, they're supporting the SEC since it's an all SEC bowl? And
I think that people can just watch because it's the national championship. I mean, I think millions of people watch the Super Bowl and their team isn't in it. I watch the Super Bowl every year. My Packers aren't in it, even though they should be. They did win the first Super Bowl, by the way.
Yeah, and the National League versus American League. Now, there is a group of people out there that feel like you should only pull for your team and your team only. So technically, they really shouldn't be watching this unless it's.
So under Big Barney Ross logic here, the only people who should watch the national championship game are Georgia and Alabama fans. Is that what you're telling me?
Or SEC homers that pull for their division or conference. But I will ask you one last question.
Sure.
A, B, or C?
A, B, or C.
It's accountability week. I want option A, Texas A&M in the bowl game. Option B, the Florida players on Dan Mullen. Or option C, Antonio Brown. Who quit the fastest? I'll get off here and listen to you.
Thank you, sir. Well, I think that there were probably rules that were put in place for Texas A&M, but I do believe this, and people can get mad at me for this all they want, but the reality is that I don't think they wanted that smoke from Wake Forest. I know the SEC homers like, and then that just shows you how dumb they absolutely are. But I think Wake Forest would have tuned them up. Absolutely tuned them up. They don't see that kind of offense ever. That gimmicky offense with delayed handoffs and everything else. I think that Wake Forest would have tuned them up. And then Jimbo Fisher would have had to go on the rubber chicken dinner circuit in June and July and talk about how the smallest Power 5 school in the country walked the dog with him. And they had a 25th of the roster that they have. I think that would have happened. I don't think his team was motivated for that at all, but I don't think that they quit. I think it was the COVID thing, but I don't think Jimbo Fisher's heart was broken. The Florida players probably went out there, in my opinion. Antonio Brown is just, I think Antonio Brown needs help. I completely believe that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. Jetmex says, it would have been a good game, but A&M didn't want it for some reason. Embarrassed the SEC. Look, there were plenty of people that thought Wake Forest had no chance. I'm telling you, with that gimmicky offense that they've got, the last time Texas A&M played them, they had a much better team. Wake Forest hung 55 on them. And 4 players from that Texas A&M defense got drafted that year. Beast Bailey online says, I think A&M would have won it, but it might have been interesting. I think Wake Forest would have walked the absolute dog on them, made them look stupid. The SEC folks would not have invited them to the cookout. So there's that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown, here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I'm keeping this article, by the way, where this gentleman thinks that Brian Kelly is not going to be a good coach at LSU. That's going to be stapled to the wall because he's going to end up looking stupid. Let's go back out to the phones. Welcome into the Rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, this is Bob, your actual Missouri fan here.
Hi.
Hey, well, okay, I want to talk college football playoff national championship. Apparently you got your wish, and I didn't get mine. Remember, I was the one that wanted Cincinnati and Michigan, and we're going to have the Alabama Invitational here, so wake me when it's over. So, but I'm kind of with you, is that since I don't really pull for either team, we're going to get to have fun, because if Alabama loses, their fans are just going to absolutely lose their mind. And if Georgia loses, I get to go on Uncle Lou's channel and watch him lose his mind as well. So
Sure.
Either way, I get to have fun.
Yeah. Well, and look, and, I think that if Alabama loses, there's people have sent me messages thinking this is the year that Saban may call it out. Who knows? I mean, you can't beat Father Time forever. And if they lose the national championship and the game to Spurrier, that's not going to work out. I'm sorry, they lose him as well. Not a good look, man. Not a good look at all.
That's true. Although there could be one thing, if Alabama wins this, maybe Nick Saban says, I'm going to ride out a champion and all that kind of good stuff as well. But you know what's going to happen. The Alabama school will say, no. The fans are like, here's another $10 million a year. Please stay, Nick.
I don't think Nick Saban has to worry about money.
That's just true as well, yeah.
Just being honest on that. I don't think he has to worry about money.
Yeah, okay. Well, good talking at you, Rob. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good day. One more call before we get a break. Welcome into the Rundown. Good afternoon.
I heard your record, and you talking about me. I only go against Georgia. See, I am a gambling man. I won't bet against Georgia.
Hold on, sir. Respectfully, Florida played 13 games this year.
I'm not worried about. I didn't bet on Florida.
You always were talking about Florida's going to take care of them. You said that.
I'm always going to say that because I'm a Gator.
Well, under that, then your team went 6-7 there, and you were 1-13 against Georgia. So you were 7 for 20. 7 for 20. Congratulations.
The bottom line is, Florida season's over. It's Georgia versus Alabama on Monday night.
Right.
And SEC will win another national championship. We'll be Alabama. Okay?
Okay.
Eat your heart out. SEC rules.
All right. Well, if that's what you have to go by to validate your Florida Gators, then good for you.
No, I'm not valid. I can care less about that. This season's done. It's done. We don't need to talk about Florida. It's over.
Hey, how big is your SEC tattoo, and where is it at? Is it on your inner thigh or on the bottom of your foot?
I wouldn't put that. I don't put ink on my body.
Why not?
I just don't.
Okay. Fair enough, sir.
No doubt.
No doubt.
Eat your heart out. SEC wins another championship.
Sure.
They look very good.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you calling the program. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye. Hollywood says he doesn't like ink. There you go. Imagine that. More of the Rundown when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Caden, that's great.
Millions of people like you take back their privacy online. With one download, you can search and browse privately, avoiding trackers, all for free. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
iHeartRadio Earth knows small changes make a big difference for the environment. Did you know that keeping your tires even a single PSI lower than recommended means worse mileage and more trips to the pump? So do the environment and your wallet a favor and always check the tire pressure. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips on smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth. Every small business owner's most important New Year's resolution is to attract more customers. Let a radio ad from iHeart Ad Builder reach the customers that will make 2020.
Maybe Nick Saban's tired of doing this. I don't know.
Just answer a few questions and get your commercial on the air. Start 2022 off right and put the power of radio to work for your business at iHeartAdBuilder.com.
When a community grows, its hospital should grow too. And that's just what we're doing at Lexington Medical Center. We recently launched the largest hospital expansion project in South Carolina history. Our new 10-story patient tower will help us take better care of patients, including the tiniest infants who need special attention. It will also make room for the growing number of patients who need surgery and intensive care. At Lexington Medical Center, our mission to serve our community never wavers. We're here when you need us today, and we'll be there when you need us tomorrow.
His wife's 100. I don't call him balls and sack. I call him bedazzle sack there, Brandon. Bedazzle sack. Thank you. My daughter bought me this shirt. You might be right about that there, Vol Steak. I don't know. Well, welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders, as the big voice guy there tells you. A couple more things here from the Bookcase of Accountability that I found interesting today. The coaching carousel, when the first little bit of it was spinning, the first article was about the case to keep Dan Mullen. And it says, basically, it talks about the losses that were devastating and damaging. A loss to Mizzou would leave Florida sixth place in the East, just ahead of Vanderbilt, with its lowest number of conference wins since the SEC expanded to 12 teams in 1992. Be their worst SEC record since the 1979 team went 0-10-1. They could also lose to Florida State, which would give Florida State an upper hand in recruiting, according to this, but not so much. If Florida were to win both games, Mullen might be able to make significant changes in his coaching staff, including hiring multiple SEC-centric recruiters to bolster his history of poor recruiting and keep his job. So they were talking about maybe Dan Mullen could save himself by winning some games, and he didn't. So, not knocking what the guy wrote here, but that was kind of the way that stuff went. They also talked about Mario Cristobal being the biggest name in the coaching market, and this guy actually got it right. He's heading to Miami, and he wrote this in the 1st of November. So this guy kind of called it for them. He did miss on this, though. Hugh Freeze at Liberty. You know, he calls it spending 3 years in exile at Liberty. Look, when you have ladies of the evening calling, calls to ladies of the evening from your university phone, it's kind of hard to bounce back from that. Now, do I think that Hugh Freeze is a good X's and O's coach? And yeah, but is Hugh Freeze the guy that with the stuff that's happened to him in the past? Is that who you want leading your program? I think he needs one more year. But Matt Hayes put that out there thinking that that's the way that it should go, and he should have gotten a Power 5 job. All right, 803-978-1832. Some other jobs that this is from who wrote this? Oh, this is from a Michigan newspaper talking about Michigan State's Mel Tucker. They need to give him an extension. He's talking about this after they started the season, 6-0 or something like that. They ended up giving him one of the biggest extensions ever. So, yeah, there's that. They actually seem like they're caring about the program. So some interesting things there. 803-978-1832. We're also can talk about the national championship game because it is on the horizon. It really is on the horizon. If you want to talk about that, feel free. 803-978-1832. Some of the bowl games, they had the projections for the bowl games, the ESPN's FPI for the bowl games. These were actually interesting. They had, if we go down the list, some of these were correct. Some of them they missed. They both had Georgia and Alabama losing against the spread in the CFP. According to the FPI, that was not true. They ended up winning out there. They had Ole Miss winning over Baylor. Not so much. They had Kansas State winning. So that was a good pick there. They had North Carolina winning over South Carolina. So the FPI kind of looks silly there. They missed on Central Florida. What else did they miss on? Some other matchups they missed on. They missed on Virginia. They got popped. I mean, popped. Let's see here. Other matchups. Arkansas and Penn State. They had Penn State. Arkansas won. Big time there. Kentucky and Iowa. They had Iowa winning. So the FPI kind of didn't really look that good. Yeah, Blake's right about Texas Tech. They did miss on Texas Tech and Mississippi State. Let's see if I can pull up the numbers on that. Yeah, they had Mississippi State is as the 65% chance of winning the game. Texas Tech just scored again. That's what they think about the FPI. Here's the other cool part. I love the bookcase of accountability because you can look back and see what people thought at the beginning of the season. As I'm looking at some of my picks here, oof. Yeah, I had Ole Miss winning over Tennessee, Ole Miss covering the big spread against Tennessee, and that didn't happen. Ole Miss covering against LSU, I did get that one. Yeah, I missed on some. I certainly did. Let's see here. Some other headlines from the year that are interesting. Clemson's wide receiver Joseph Nagata was out for the matchup with Pittsburgh. That's not why they lost. There's that. Also, I saved this article. This is from Dave Hooker, who works up in Tennessee. And he says, is Alabama-Tennessee even a rivalry anymore? Yeah. Talk about that when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. That's why I said that they missed on the Baylor Ole Miss game. Blake is correct on that. I didn't say anything. I just said that we were talking about the rivalry and about how it used to not be that way. I didn't catch it. I didn't catch the end of the Georgia game, so sorry about that there. Go Dogs. Actually, you don't own Tennessee. You've got a 3-game lead over Tennessee. Shut up. Shut up, Alan. You don't know what you're talking about. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. A couple of other cool things from the hot seat rankings. You know, we talked about this. As we go back in time to October the 5th, one of the first set of hot seat rankings come out. Here are the names that are on there. Ed Orgeron, man, he's gone. Dino Babers is still at Syracuse. Nick Rolovich at Washington State. He ended up leaving because I think the whole COVID thing got him out of there. Herm Edwards is still at Arizona State. Scott Frost is still at Nebraska. Manny Diaz is gone from Miami. Mike Norvell is still at Florida State. Justin Fuente is gone from Virginia Tech. And they had Jim Harbaugh in October as on the hot seat. Wow. It's funny because I've never been a Harbaugh guy, but he ended up kind of, we're going to argue with results here. The guy went and beat Ohio State, won the Big Ten championship, went to the CFP, and yeah, he got it. He got his butt handed to them there, but they had a good season. Good season. Blake says Jeff Collins still holding on. He wasn't even on the first set of the hot seat, the hot coaches hot seat rankings from October the 5th. So there's that. Interesting stuff there as we look back on the season from the past. Some other things that I missed on, and a lot of people missed on this. Pittsburgh was I think a 26-point favorite over Western Michigan, and they lost. People remember, I think it was like the 74-73 game or something. They lost. Wow. Katuza says Michigan was overrated. Well, they lost one game, right? 1 game, 2 games, whatever. They played pretty good football all year. All right, 803-978-1832. As we look back at college football season and what has actually happened and then looked at what was actually written. And we'll look through some more of this as we go through there. I think the biggest things that we're going to deal with here in the next couple of weeks are coaches moving around and players possibly moving around. Before we get into spring practice, I think there's going to be a lot of, especially quarterbacks, that are going to move on. What do I mean by that? There's going to be guys that are going to come in and be like, all right, I didn't make it here. I'm not going to be a backup. I'm going to go somewhere else. Blake says, looking back, how in the world is Scott Frost still employed at Nebraska? That's a good point. Benji says the only thing Jeff Collins should be holding on to is his belt. Oof. Off the top rope there. Alan says Uiagalelei was overrated. Yep, you can make that argument. He did not have a good season. That's true. That's true. And then Vol Steak says that Allen is a Tennessee fan. I didn't know that. Allen's a Tennessee fan. Imagine that. Billy says we should eliminate the transfer portal today. I don't even know where to go with that. You know, I like the idea that you can have the capability to go somewhere and play. But I do think that kids now are basically, they're not sticking it out like Mac Jones and guys like that did. So now the transfer portal is there, but is it really, I don't know, man. I don't even know what the term I want to use is. I'm so in and out with the transfer portal thing because I do think that, and this is a big part of it too, you have schools that oversign. They'll sign 25 players and oversign so they can stockpile talent. So if someone gets injured, they can plug another guy in there. Now, I think that schools should get away from that. And a lot of that is the SEC schools. They do that. If you sign whatever the scholarship limit is, that's what you should be able to sign and not anymore. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Oversigning is a huge problem because you're getting all these kids into one spot, and there's only so many spots on the field. If you want to get to a point where, I don't want to use the term parity, but there's balance, let's stop looking at the transfer portal and start looking at the oversigning that's going on. That's one of the bigger things in college football that's just killing it. There are guys that are third string for the Alabama team that would start for Mizzou, South Carolina, as if we're using the SEC as an example. Georgia's got the same thing. That's why they have so much talent there, is that they stockpile it. And a lot of those kids don't really get the opportunity to play. Now, on the other hand, a lot of those kids are, if you look at a school and you see, all right, I'm the third quarterback in this recruiting class. Let's use that as an example, okay? I'm the third linebacker, whatever. Then you are probably setting yourself up for failure anyway. But I think there's a lot of kids that say, you know what? I'm a Georgia guy. I've been a Georgia fan, whatever. And they think, man, I'm going to be able to beat those guys out. And they don't. They really don't. So I think oversigning is a big, big problem that no one really wants to really shine a light on that. But it's a mess. Let's just leave it at that. All right, so we are inching closer and closer to the national championship game. We're going to have we start previewing that here in tomorrow and on Monday. We'll give you an idea of who I'm going to pick. We'll have all that for you here on the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app, blog page is up, all kinds of good stuff there, foxsportsradio1400.com. Blake says it wouldn't be a bad deal to be a third-string quarterback at Alabama. Someone posted this the other day on my Twitter feed. I think it was my buddy Rich Long. Shout out to him. Apparently, Alabama's starting quarterback makes $1.3 million in NIL money. But who is it? Jalen Hurts made $800,000 this year as the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Why the hell would you go to the NFL? You make $1.3 million in college. It's a $500,000 difference. Just saying. I think that eventually we may have kids that can make more money with NIL at home in college than they can in the NFL. We shall see. All right, don't forget my buddy Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports Talk. He is, of course, the czar of Clemson Sports.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
He'll be here this afternoon to take you home with some good stuff. 4 to 6. You can find him Fox Sports Radio 1400 app. Excuse me, the iHeartRadio app. Just look for Fox Sports Radio 1400. He's got his podcast up. Follow him at Clemson Sports. Teddy Hefner's on in the morning, 9 to noon. Teddy's forgotten more about football than all of us would ever learn. Seriously. He knows what he's doing. Check out Teddy Hefner. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. We'll see you tomorrow. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you later on.